Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining this panel on the report prepared by the V4 panel of eminent personalities. Many of you already read this report probably, which was prepared for the 25th anniversary of the Visegrad cooperation and the meeting of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and it was prepared by 8 eminent personality, 2 from each country, and we have the pleasure to have 4 of them here today's panel. And let me introduce them very shortly. Mr. Libor Ruček, chairman of the panel of the eminent personalities. He was member of the European Parliament, later the Vice President of the European Parliament and the Vice President of the Socialist and Democratic Group in the European Parliament. Mr. Professor Jacek Kurchla, Professor of Humanities and member of the Polish Academy of Arts and Sciences, and also the President of the Polish National Commission for UNESCO. Mr. Professor Wojciech Jerzy-Giżycki, who is a professor at the John Paul II Catholic University of Lublin, and Mr. Pavel Dameš, independent expert, former foreign minister of Slovakia, and non-resident senior fellow of the German Marshall Fund and board member of the European Endowment for Democracy. Thank you very much for being here with us. Let me ask the first question from Mr. Ruček, who was chairing this panel, to shortly introduce that what was the main goal, the original goal of this panel of eminent personalities, what do you find as the most important results, and if this exercise will continue in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, and once more, thank you that you stay for so long that we can discuss more aspects of our report and of course of the whole concept of V4 and the difficulties and problems not only V4 but the EU is facing. So what was the main reason or the purpose of this paper? As we already mentioned, that is the 25th anniversary of V4. It came. Czech Republic has its presidency, so as I said, the minister came up with the idea, let's have this panel of eminent personalities, 2 people from each country. You can see most of the people were the former foreign ministers or high-ranking academics, and so not, as I said, not only politicians but also people from academia. And the purpose was to look at the developments not only of the last 25 years, but also to look what's going on, around us, not only in the V4 countries, but in Europe, in the broader environment, and come up with some proposals, ideas, not only for the foreign ministers or not only for the Czech presidency, but I think what is important that we discuss those ideas with the journalists, with our think tanks, with the broader public, that means with civil society. So that was the main purpose. Today we presented the paper, we presented the results. What we would like to see, and I think would be useful not only for the panel, but I think for all of us, to carry on with the debate, to continue the debate. Because now, if you read German newspaper, French newspaper, Dutch, Spanish, or French, in whatever language in Europe, so you can see that suddenly people are talking about Visegrad 4, sometimes not in positive terms or tones, but the attention is here. And I think it would be in our mutual interest, not only of the V4 countries, but of the entire EU, to learn more, to find out more about, who these people in Visegrad 4 are, what do they want, what are their ideas as far as the EU integration is concerned, enlargement, neighborhood, deepening of our cooperation, migration crisis, and so on. So I think that's a good opportunity, and I do hope, or we do hope, that we can, we can continue this debate. As far as the report is concerned, yes, we talked already about it, in the previous session. So I won't repeat what's been said or what's written in the report. I think it would be more interesting if, I leave space to my colleagues, but also if we discuss as much as we can in our discussion, in your questions and and comments and our answers. So thank you as far as the introduction is concerned.
Thank you very much. Let me have a few questions for your colleagues as well. Mr. Purchla, the report itself, could be possibly characterized by two main issues, that the internet cohesion question and the external questions. And your recommendation in the report is that the report is saying that you see Visegrad as still a very elitist exercise, not involving enough people, and very importantly, not involving young people. Furthermore, and that's because of your background, I would like to ask this part as well. The culture you believe that it's still largely missing, and this should be a heart of this exercise, and we should have a more concentrated campaign on promoting Central European culture. So how do you see this to be implemented?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it is the crucial question, paradoxically. I do agree, V4 is still considered as quite elitist concept, and we used to focus our efforts during those 25 years' time mainly on political goals, NATO, EU, and so on. Neglecting to a certain extent the issue of the citizenship of V4 and the question of identity. Quite often we used to repeat, quoting Georgi Conrad, that Central Europe is a matter of conviction. And I understand that it is time, and it is one of the strategic goals emphasized in our report, to touch deeper and much more efficient the people, those more than 60 million citizens of V4 countries, to help them to understand better each other and to help them to understand the nature of our fate or of our common lesson in Europe. It is not a very easy task. Let me please share with you in short with my experience as the expert of the European Commission dealing at the moment with so-called European Heritage Label, which is the new initiative of European Parliament, with this idea to try to find so-called lieux de mémoire, places of memory integrating all the Europeans, all the citizens of those 28 countries. The idea sounds beautifully, but I can tell you that after 3 years of my personal involvement in this very business, I can say, like Central Europeans used to say, the situation is hopeless but not serious. In this sense that, of course, Acropolis, Cluny and some other places are quite neutral and convincing, unifying everybody. If you look at this list, which consists at the moment of about 50 or 60 citizen places, we do contribute with European Picnic nearby Sopron, the place where also V4 was born, so to speak, summertime 1989, and Gdańsk Shipyard, with the mythology of Polish Solidarność, solidarity movement. but I'm quite doubtful if it is possible at the moment to find a common denominator, not just concerning European dimension, but I know also, I am fully aware how difficult it would be to overcome our conflicting memories and stereotypes within V4. So it is really a strategic task, and possibly implementing the idea of lieu de mémoire and using culture and heritage tourism as the instrument, it would be and it should be the way. And to conclude, what is optimistic concerning my long-lasting experience and my Krakowian perspective, that the real achievement of V4 during the recent years especially is that we are now much better recognized also concerning our heritage, our culture dimension, our special or specific identity from the outside, from the quite distant outside. For me, the most encouraging example is the group of Asia-Pacific region countries, which at the moment started to make this clear distinction between Eastern Europe and Central Europe, recognizing V4 as a topic and a subject concerning university education and research. And I think that it should be also the way, if I may finish. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hopefully Visegrad will be on this list, because Visegrad might be not neutral for everybody, but definitely integrating people. Thank you very much. Mr. Demes, let me turn to you with a foreign policy related question. The report recommends to strengthen Visegrad external relationships and engage with other partners, new partners. It was already a discussion here about whether this should be further strengthened or not. What do you think? What should be the priorities? Which areas? Which countries? Which regions for Visegrad?
Thanks very much. I would like to start by saying that what I found fascinating during the process of preparing this report is that it went parallel with Think Europe group. And I think that nowadays we have very good opportunity to look at what experts, you included, prepared, and which was presented before, and the paper or report which we prepared. We were completely independent of any political influences, and we prepared our view on Visegrad's past, present, and looked a little bit at the future. For me, I must tell you, I was a bit skeptical at the beginning whether we will be able, former ministers, academics, to formulate this as a fresh look at Visegrad project, particularly in period when the whole notion of Visegrad group within European Union is debated. And I can tell you that we came quite easily to conclusion, which you can read in the report, which we have presented both to foreign ministers but public at large, not only expert community. And as Libor said, we wish that this report would play a role in strengthening visibility of Visegrad in external world, but also open up deeper debate within Visegrad group, how to overcome this elitist project and strengthen it from within in complicated period of European Union. We agreed that this formula, Visegrad group as quartet, should remain in future, that we shouldn't expand it, bring in new members, but we will rather keep and are suggesting to work with this Visegrad 4+. Plus meaning neighboring countries or countries of larger distance. Japan was mentioned today, but key feeling is that priority for Visegrad should be Western Balkans and Eastern Partnership countries, regions where we could be added value, helping these countries to go through their transitions and through their integration process and deepening cooperation with the European Union. I think that 25 years after Visegrad Group was born, European Union itself, it's a big test. We are, terms like Brexit occurred. We never thought that when we were joining European Union, which was primary goal of all four of us, that European Union will be at risk of, as European architecture as it was built after Second World War. And I think that whole issue of Visegrad Group should be about being part of solution rather than part of problem for maintaining European and transatlantic family as cohesive and competitive group. Nowadays, very often, and ministers of foreign affairs in their opening panel indicated that on one hand, we have this paradoxical situation. Visegrad 4 was never recognized so much as specific regional cooperation or group, but at the same time, Visegrad is now criticized by many Western partners. So to deal with this tension, on the one hand, we grew into cohesive group, which people are recognizing, both politicians and publics of our countries, but at the same time, in these turbulent times, which turbulences were brought mainly through migration crisis, that how to keep trademark or name of Visegrad as strong European grouping rather than group which is undermining some of the search processes of European Union. And I think that here we will be tested, both politicians, experts, how are we going to present ourselves externally and how are we going to strengthen internally our grouping in time of austerity. And I will conclude with one saying where I think that this needs to be discussed also by diplomats, experts, how to talk about Visegrad. I think line of thought presented by Hungarian foreign minister that more démarches the better, I don't think it's very helpful. Surely it can be good for tweets, but I don't think that it is good for helping us to be respected partners within European Union, within transatlantic family. So I think that cooling down in rhetorics on both sides, V4, but also Western European partners, I think is one of the immediate tasks which we should think about during our celebration of 25th anniversary of Visegrad Group. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your thought. Thank you. Finally, I would like to turn to Mr. Giżycki. You are a new member of this panel, and I would like to ask you about how you see how the new Polish government, whether it will change its priorities within the Visegrad 4, and what will be their own priorities during the Polish presidency of the Visegrad Group. If you could share your thoughts about that.
Thank you. I am sure that the words like trust, solidarity, and community are still actual. In my point of view, we need a new vision of community, and absolutely positive thinking about our part of Europe in Visegrad Group plus formula. I believe that we must send our offer to, for example, Baltic state, of course, Balkan states. So this is the first. What I say about community. We must do this because every time when we are alone, we lost. For example, in 1959, in 1968, for example, we did something alone, so we lost. But every time when we are together, for example, 1999, 2004, we won this game. Yeah, so we need community. Second, the success of this Visegrad group, in my opinion, is in our hand, absolutely in our hands, not our partners from the Western countries, for example. In our hands. We must promoting every time our vision, not only in our society, but outside too. Especially in the young generation, I think. Maybe the young people in Europe, in our country, never heard about Visegrad Group countries, so we must do something in this area. Yesterday I said about very simply idea. I think that we must talking with young people very simply language and very simply symbol. As you know, in June and July in this year, in France, we have a championship, European Championship in football. Yeah? This is the great event, sports events, one of most important events on the world. Maybe it's good occasion to us to promoting our vision to the other countries by our sportsmen. We're joking about this yesterday, but every young boys and girls in Europe and the world knows who Robert Lewandowski, for example, is, yeah? Who Marek Hamzik is, who Petr Cech is, and Gabor Kirali, for example, is. Maybe our governments will ask these men about helping in our promoting. Because, of course, our meetings, experts, scholars, etc., are absolutely important part of our discussion. But I think that we must send this offer to young people too. So this is maybe a good idea. Great and big sports events and our promoting in this area. And the last problem. I believe that Visegrad Group countries still alive, and we must send this message to the other countries, especially in Western Union. We alive, and we do everything for our strong Europe, not only Central Europe, of course, but generally Europe. Thank you.
Professor, thank you very much. I'm sure that your idea about sports events, especially soccer events, football events, would be very much supported among most of the politicians, especially Minister Szijjártó and Prime Minister Orbán would definitely go for that. Thank you very much, and I would now like to open the floor for questions and comments if you have, so please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Rick Fawn from the University of St. Andrews in the UK. I feel very privileged to have the opportunity to speak to the panel. Can I first make a comment, which is also a celebration of Visegrad, and then ask a question? The comment pertains to societal involvement with Visegrad, and I'd just like to suggest that if we had wider context, if we think of other regional groupings more broadly in the area, I don't need to name some, but I could, that I've had some chance to study, or of intergovernmental organizations more widely, there is this very strong tendency that societies don't have engagement with them. We have incredibly capable students interested in international affairs. They will not know anything of the OECD or the OSCE or so on. So my point of celebration is, I think Visegrad has actually done a tremendous amount of outreach to society, and I think the International Visegrad Fund has done a tremendous amount. That's not to say that there isn't more to be done, but we shouldn't lose sight of that. I think we should really acknowledge how much has been done, and in relative terms to what similar organizations have done, which I suspect, in fact, I will say it, is actually very, very limited. The question is this: I appreciate seeing the report, and I look forward to reading it through more thoroughly. I've had some opportunity over many, many years to meet all of the national coordinators and their staffs, and I've asked questions about how the presidency programs get formulated, and we'll all know that they get physically longer every year, and there are sectoral areas of cooperation in every presidency program. And I was told many, many years ago that really every ministry in all of the 4 countries has at least a designated person to deal with Visegrad issues. So believe it or not, I am coming to a question. When in 2.2 we talk about reforming V4 institutions, and I think this is a wonderful idea of elevating Visegrad to the prime ministerial level and dedicating very senior distinguished people to it, that could give tremendous impetus to something that seems to me as an outsider already has a lot. But my question is, have we had a reaction from the foreign ministries where, as it stands now, the coordination at least of Visegrad is based? Thank you very much.
Thank you, and please, we would have a question also from Mr. Schwarzer.
Less a question, correction. Twice one called here today the Visegrad in former years as an elitist group. As I am the only president who was at the founding in Visegrad, was several times presiding the Visegrad group, I can assure you it was never elitist. It was only specializing on some themata. Specializing on politics and other is not elitist, but a normal thing of concentration, the few resources you have on the important topics. But it was at the meetings, which were on all levels, from the minister to the many civil servants, ministers and so on. One thing, it really was never elitist, it was never a very elegant or something. It was a working platform, and that was maybe the most important thing. But to call it elitist is a basic error.
Thank you. If we have one more or 2 more questions, we would take it, and then we will give the opportunity to answer these questions. Is there any more? Yeah. Tomasz.
It's more a procedural question than a thematic-oriented question. Well, the report is published, your work has been concluded, but I would be interested what would be the next step. Is there any possibility you are going to meet in the same circle in the future and assess what recommendations have been implemented and what not, and somehow also oversee the implementation process as such? I am just interested in the future steps. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to answer the question? Pavel.
Thank you. So I will try to touch upon those questions, and I'm sure colleagues will add to that. First question about this idea of elevating it from coordination at MFAs up to prime minister's level. I think that after 25 years, it becomes very natural that there are not only foreign policy issues like joining EU, joining NATO, and so on, because in pre-accession period, these were key things where we needed to work together, coordinate more. But with the introduction of International Visegrad Fund, this multi-layered approach started to occur, that besides political meetings on highest level, there are zillion projects touching upon education, cultural institutions, tourism, sport, here and there. So I think that now it doesn't make too much sense that it should be as a foreign policy project, but rather much broader, and it would reflect. And now we are talking about energy security, about transportation corridors, and so on. that this cross-cutting nature of collaboration among four requires improvement, but also increasing it a little bit. We mentioned it this morning when we had meeting with foreign ministers. They urged us now to continue debating this and pushing four countries to have deeper debate how to introduce some of these policies into reality. So we are at the very initial stage, but there was no objection against these because foreign ministers had it before, and last night we had dinner with Czech foreign minister who during Czech presidency will try to pursue some of these ideas further. So in coming few months we will see how individual governments will react into some of these proposals, including that one to move it to Prime Minister's office. Second, about this Mr. Karel Schwarzenberg's idea, I think that probably we should take these into more serious consideration, this word, because probably what we thought is that we need to improve public awareness and public communication because it is not yet there where we are, and probably if it would be up to me, I would erase very easily term elitist and develop some synonym for that. And also, as far as next steps, I think that this would be probably to Libor because we have both intra-Visegrad ideas, what we should do, but also we would like to go with report outside to contribute a little bit for external audiences, including European Union capitals and Brussels, to talk about what Visegrad is and how and what ambitions we do have now to strengthen dialogue within European Union. And last but not least, about elitist, not elitist, where we should do better, this is sort of semi-funny, but important throughout the whole day. From morning until now, it is super male-dominated exercise. I think Visegrad should think deeper how to engage more women into formulating Visegrad future in coming 25 years would be quite helpful. Libor.
Thank you. Let me also to say a few words about elitist. We didn't mean that if the ministers meet, you know, whether foreign or otherwise, they are elitist. We meant the meetings are mainly between and among political elites. What we would like to see is more contacts, more cooperation, for instance, as far as the civil society is concerned, you know, to involve more public, young people, students, people who are involved in arts or in new media. You know, so that's what we meant by elitist. I agree with you that, you know, but it wasn't meant that way. That when you were chairing the meetings, that you were some sort of, you know, elitist group. And as far as the next steps of the reports are concerned. So during the Czech presidency, that's till the end of June, as Pavel already mentioned, yes, we want to have debate both within our V4 countries, but also we would like to engage in debates, you know, outside of the V4 borders. So for instance, 1st and 2nd of March, we will have a meeting at the Diplomatic Academy in Vienna. We will discuss this, you know, concept of Visegrad cooperation and all the related issues in Austria. We are also preparing a meeting in Berlin together with the Deutsche Gesellschaft für Auswärtige Politik, the DGAP. We are also expecting to go to Brussels, perhaps to the European Parliament or Foreign Affairs Committee. I think that would be, you know, that's the best platform, the best place to go to, because you have representatives of all 28 member states. So as we mentioned, yes, this is a report for the ministers, but it is also a report for the broader public, both within the V4 countries and, you know, in the wider region. What will happen after the 1st of July, we will see, because there will be the Polish presidency. That's how it works. within and among the V4 group, that every year one country has the presidency, the country sets the priorities in an ideal way, and that's sort of similar working of the presidency of the EU. There should be a certain continuity, but of course, every country comes up with its own idea. So we will see what the program of the Polish presidency will be, whether we will, or whether the presidency will continue with this group of eminent personalities or not. But let's wait and see.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kurchla, you indicated that you would like to add something.
Just in short, if I may, coming to this very essential point, how shall we try to broaden this V4 message, not only outside, but also approaching so-called ordinary people within? What shouldn't be forgotten today during our discussions is local government, and it is a real achievement that, especially talking about so-called trans-border cooperation, there are so many positive cases and examples. Maybe it may sound banal, but coming back 30 years back to the 80s, when we still used to be in a kind of a splendid isolation, it is a real miracle that community to community, people to people, they started to develop this exchange through culture, through education, through sport. And I think that it is this very platform which would be now better, much more intensive use also for strengthening our common V4 identity.
Thank you very much. We have to finish it now. Thank you very much for the panelists for joining us, and thank you for joining us. We will continue with lunch, as far as I know. So with the technical details, the organizers will help us. Thank you very much.